Very pleased to introduce our lineup of speakers today. First up will be Glenn Miller, who goes by Andy of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Andy is the energy coordinator in their Madisonville office for rural development. He administers the Rural Energy for America program here in the state, also known as REAP. We'll learn about it, but the goal of REAP is to help agricultural producers and rural small business owners make energy efficiency improvements and renewable energy investments to lower energy costs, generate new income, and strengthen the resiliency of their operations. Also speaking today is Chelsea Smither, project manager at the Kentucky Office of Ag Policy, which is a part of the Kentucky Department of Ag. Chelsea works on administering their on-farm energy efficiency incentives program. And lastly, we will hear from Tammie McCullough, co-owner of West Kentucky Aquaponics in Benton, Kentucky. And I had the great privilege of visiting her family's operation earlier this year and was just wildly impressed with the facility. So I am excited for her to share on what her business looks like and hear a bit about how these two grants have helped over the years. So I will quit talking for now and turn it over to you, Andy.
I'm going to try to tell you everything you want to know about REAP in 20 minutes or less. And the very first thing to me is the most important. We'll start at the end. Contact information. The contact information, my legal name is Glenn. I go by Andy. The best way to get me is email, glenn.miller, USDA.gov. This is my work cell, 270-841-7864. I've finished up my first year with REAP. REAP has been around for a number of years, aimed at ag producers and rural small business. So if I don't watch myself, I'll get way off track. So I'm just going to go to the beginning. We'll sort of go through this, but I'll try to hit some of the highlights. REAP has been around for a long time, but back a few years ago, IRA came out, the Inflation Reduction Act, and put several billions of dollars into that program. So it really grew by leaps and bounds. We did more applications last year in the state of Kentucky than had ever been done before. We did roughly $18 million worth of REAP grants. And the year before that was $1 million. So just by that example, the number of funding significantly went up. We just got a notice. I'm going to try to hit this a little bit. It just came out October the 16th. This gives us the funding for the next 3 years. This is for the United States. This is the whole program, by the way. So roughly $180 million per year, and then an additional $20 million for underutilized technology. We'll talk a little bit about some of this later, but we're going to get a $200 million for the next 3 years. So we still have funds available. The only thing I'm going to hit on today is the grant. There are some loans. The grants, if conditions are met, though, you can receive up to 50% of your total project costs in the form of a grant. With that being said, of course, grants are not repaid. Not many people are interested in a loan. So we have spent 99.9% of all of our resources over the last few years discussing the grants. So that's why I'm going to talk about those in a lot more detail. I always have to take a deep breath every now and then, or I'll finish in record time. So what is a REAP? Well, there's two different projects that fall into the REAP. That's the renewable energy systems for the state of Kentucky. Most of the time that's solar. There are some other alternatives out there. We do have a wind. We have our first wind that we're working on this quarter, but almost everything has been solar. And those work well for farmers and for small businesses. That's where you may replace a percentage of your electricity. You may do a relatively small unit, 6 or 7 kilowatts unit, and you may replace 10, 15%. Or you could choose, like I've seen some of the poultry farmers that have put in relatively large systems, say 50, 60, 75 kilowatt systems, and they've replaced almost all of their electricity. Of course, poultry is heavy in electricity with everything that runs out there. So if they can replace 70 or 80% of their electricity, that's a big cost saver for them. The other thing is energy efficiency improvements. That's a very large, broad topic. The easiest way I think I can explain it is any action that you could take that would reduce utility cost. That could be a reduction in electricity, could be a reduction in propane, could be a reduction in diesel. We've done quite a number of grain dryers is a good example where the farmers had the grain dryer for maybe 10, 15 years. It's probably starting to approach the end of its useful life. They can purchase a new grain dryer, and if that new grain dryer is more energy efficient than the one it's replacing, then that qualifies in most instances. The thing that I find interesting is it just has to be more energy efficient. There's not a percentage that you have to reduce your cost by. You don't have to reduce your electricity or your propane or we still have a few farmers that were still running diesel on power takeoffs, PTO systems to do their grain dryers and move and go obviously going to a new grain dryer and going to propane. It's a tremendous increase, but there's no percentage of increase that you have to do. You just have to show that the new one is more efficient than the old one. And this is always a good stopping point for me to go ahead and sort of reiterate. We really highly suggest, if you want to do the REAP grant, to use a grant writer. We maintain a list, and I'll share it with whoever would like it, of grant writers that have submitted in the state of Kentucky. I've worked with most of these. They know the ins and outs. They will help you prepare the documentation. It is extensive. There are some technical reviews that need to be performed. Obviously, you need to be able to show what the current system is using, then the new system, and then the difference between those. They'll really assist you in preparing those. So that's my plug for grant writers. I will tell you, uh, all of the applications that we received last year, none, well, one was attempted by the individual. The rest were submitted by grant writers, and unfortunately, the one by the individual just didn't make it because they're very technical. They are scored. Scores are becoming more important. Let me try to get back on track. I got to reel myself in every now and then. One of the that we aim at is the real small business, and we look at the eligibility, and it's based on the SBA size standards. You can see the qualifications there. I'm going to hit these rather quickly. We don't usually have a trouble with that. Ag producers, the real caveat here is that you receive 50% or more of your revenue from agriculture operations. This is new. Actually, I just added this today. This came out in the Federal Register. Probably not super important tonight to talk about, but common management or ownership, if you fall into that category, you're limited to an aggregate funding of $500,000 for an energy efficiency or $1 million in a renewable. That is a change going forward. We'll talk about that if it comes up, but we usually went through the EINs for the business, and each EIN was a separate business. So one person could have multiple businesses and they would all be eligible for a REIT. And this has changed with this latest federal register. Some examples of renewable energy. Obviously, solar for Kentucky is number one by far. It's the number one REAP in general. There can be wind and hydroelectric, anaerobic digesters and biomass. I've talked to several people, companies, small business farmers about doing these. We haven't seen any of these get off the ground. We have done some geothermal, and in Kentucky, we don't usually have to worry about waves unless you're on the Ohio River. Energy efficiency, some examples, lighting. You may have the old lighting, I can't even think of the name of it now. It's been long enough, but you may switch to LED. And if you have a greenhouse, then that may be a significant number of light bulbs. We had one that was a larger, and they switched out thousands and went to the LED, and they saved a lot of money, and that qualified because it made them more energy efficiency. The grain dryers again, that's probably energy efficiency, probably one of the number ones that we've been able to do. Cooling and ventilation. We've seen a lot of convenience stores that have changed HVACs. We've had small businesses that have redone their HVAC, and again, if the new system is more energy efficient than what they're replacing, then it qualifies. Automated controls, that's an interesting one. We had one that went to a computer program. I'm working on one now. They raise fish. They have like 20, 30 ponds. They raise catfish and they raise bass. And they've changed and they've gone to an automated system for aeration. Before it was just sort of done at random, but now they're going to put in a computer system that will control when the pumps need to run for aeration, and it's showing. It looks very promising that will save them a lot of money. So that is something. It's a fairly large encompassing the energy efficiency. So my suggestion is if you have something you think may qualify, call us. Give me a call. And we'll see if that works. This is some of the additional requirements. We're not going to really hit on these tonight. The technical report, that is something a grant writer can help you with. The EEI projects, that's the energy assessment or the energy audit, depending upon the size. That is something definitely the grant writer can assist you with. Here's the good news. For the grants, you can get up to 50% of the eligible project cost. For a renewable system, the maximum grant size is up to $1 million. That would equate to a fairly large solar system. We actually have had a few of those. Most of them fall well below that. So you could have a $2 million project and 50% of that, or $1 million could be the grant. The energy efficient is a little bit smaller, and then the maximum grant size on that is $500,000, but it still is up to 50% of your total project cost. Total project cost, just a little bit on that, can't include what you're doing as far as the equipment, but it may include some additional cost also. The best example that I use for that is a grain dryer. Grain dryers have gotten a lot larger than they used to be, so there's a good chance the grain dryer that's new today is significantly larger, especially the footprint of what it's replacing. So that may require some electrical. that may require some concrete. There may have to be a little additional concrete poured to make a bigger pad. A lot of times that also will qualify into that total project cost. Again, and I don't work for grant writers. I know I may sound like it, but that's another area where the grant writer will help you. And looks like I covered most of this, as I tend to do. Eligible project costs can be the equipment. So we talked about some construction, some service fees. You may get into, you may need some professional services. We don't run into that a lot of permits though. You know, if you're doing anything electrical or building wise, you'll need permits. One of the things that doesn't qualify, I've always thought this was weird, but the grant writer fee actually is one of the fees that cannot be included in the total project cost, and that's over on the ineligible side. Most of the grant writers, all the grant writers know that, but they can really help you with this use of funds. We've done quite a bit energy with poultry farms. A lot of times the company will start coming out and saying you need to update, you need to redo this. We've had a lot of those where they've done fans, they've done some computerized controls. These are just sort of some examples. If they're highly electric, then they can save thousands of dollars by doing one of these grants. Again, equipment upgrades, we've done several of those. Now this is the most relevant, and this just came out. This was in the Federal Register that was published on October the 16th, last month. We run on quarters. So all of our applications are received, worked, and funded during a quarter. So the next deadline is December the 31st. As you can see, that's actually our second quarter because we run on a physical year, just to be confusing for people that have spent their whole life working on a calendar year. We work on a physical year. So right now I'm working on the first quarter of 2025. And you can see the applications for this second quarter, the deadline is 12/31 of 24. Then the third quarter is March of 2025. This next thing, this close period, is also new. Up until now, we accepted applications on at any time, and we would just put them into whatever quarter if you missed a quarter deadline, and there is a hard deadline on that. The application must be received by the deadline date by 4:30 Central Time. We can't waive that. We can't change that because we have to be fair to all of our applicants. So for an example, if I had received an application after the deadline at 4:35, I would just put that in the next quarter. And I can still do that except this close period. This is brand new. You heard it here first. April the 1st through June the 30th will be a closed period, and applications actually will not be accepted during this time. And if you send me one, I have to send it back. Not exactly sure how this works because this just came out, but I did want to let everybody know this is a major change than last year. Last year we had 4 quarters. We were always processing applications. You could send an application whenever you wanted, and we looked at it. Now we are going to have this, and I call it a dead period. I come from sports, so I'm calling that the dead period where we won't receive any. I'm sure there'll be more on those at a later date. Here's some resources. I really suggest, I'm actually the state energy coordinator. Little joke at our house. It's a big title, but it doesn't mean a whole lot sometimes. But just contact me. Feel free to send me an email, give me a phone call. I'm generally fairly easy to get a hold of. I'll be glad to talk to you. I can help with the program. I can send you the grant writers. I can send you more information. This really is the Cliff Notes. There's a lot more to that, and I'm going to hit a few things. I think I'm at the end. Okay, now I'm going to tell you everything that wasn't in there. Here's some of the most important things that I would want to know if I'm sitting in your seat and I'm thinking about doing this. Do not spend any money until you have submitted an application. We have received that application. We have sent you a letter and we have told you we have your application. It is eligible. And then we send you a second and now even a third letter because we just like to write people. And we'll eventually send you a letter that basically says you are eligible for this program. You can choose to spend money at this time if you wish without a guarantee of being funded. At that point, then you can spend money and you can start doing your project. Anything that is spent prior to that is not eligible for reimbursement. That's probably the most important thing I can tell you. We've run into this a few times. We've had a few farmers that were doing grain dryers, and the people they were going to order it from required a down payment. So they paid 20% down, then they sent us the application. And I'm very sorry, but it's very explicit. That 20% down payment is not eligible. We have to discount it from that. So you don't want to spend money until you've received the letter that says you are eligible, and if you choose to do so, you can now start spending money on your project. Always feel free to get in touch with me. That's probably the number one thing to remember, though, is you want to have that application in before you start spending any funds on that. And with that, I think I'll get quiet.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Chelsea Smither, and I am the Senior Project Manager at the Kentucky Office of Ag Policy. I've been with them since May of 2022, and I am in charge of our on-farm energy efficiency incentives program, which is going to be the bulk or the focus of our discussion today. Okay, so although the focus of our discussion today is going to be our on-farm energy program, I wanted to give you all a little bit of brief background of our office and our other funding opportunities because we have a lot. That's our sole purpose. So back in 1999, we realized that cigarettes were bad for us, and that created the Master Settlement Agreement, which that means that the tobacco companies pay back the taxes from national cigarette sales back to tobacco dependent states. And that's an every year thing that is still happening to this day. Since nearly a quarter of Kentucky's ag cash receipts back in 99 came from tobacco, our legislature decided that 50% of the payment each year would go back to agriculture to help the farmers in the state diversify and get away from tobacco. And we invest those funds in an array, a large variety of different local county projects, regional projects, and then statewide projects. And we also have several different loan programs. As far as our 2024 payment this year, so it comes in May every year. Kentucky as a whole got a little over $105 million. Portion of that was taken off from the state, and then some went into healthcare and early childhood development. And then 46 million came to agriculture. That includes farms to food banks, rural mental health, conservation, and then our office. And then our office received about $42 million, and we split that up into different state and county funds. All right, so this is our different programs. We have CAPE, YAPE, Next Gen, and then we have Deceased Farm Animal Removal Program and Shared Use Equipment. Those are all going to be our county-run programs. Every county in the state has their own bank account here in Frankfort, and they get an allocation every year, and there is a county council that decides what that is used for within the county. of course, it's towards agricultural projects. Um, and then into some of our state programs, we have our food safety and efficiency that helps out food businesses or meat processors. Our large and food animal vet incentives program, that's helping out our rural vet shortage, or at least we're hoping it helps it out. We are giving up to $100,000 for uh, large animal vets, just if they want to upgrade their facilities, even a truck and a vet box, just because we know that that is so important to them. Our on-farm energy efficiency program, and then the KADF project grants and loans. That's just going to kind of be miscellaneous. Those could be at the county level or the state level. And then we have some of our loan programs. We've got our ag infrastructure, diversification through entrepreneurship, the beginning farmer, the large food animal vet, and then ag processing. These are actually very popular right now, and they have been for a little while because they have a 2.75% interest rate. And it is a participation loan, so you will have to have a lender at really your bank of choosing. We have banks that we work with a lot, but we're willing to work with anybody. Now we'll get into the on-farm energy program. So since 2012, we've committed over $6 million into 78 different counties, and those are shown on the map. The purpose of this program is to increase the energy efficiency of the existing equipment or facilities at your farm. This is a 50-50 cost reimbursement grant, meaning that you will need to pay for the entire project up front, and then we will pay back half of it after it's complete. Eligible expenses are retroactive 6 months from the application deadline. So like for our next deadline is December 20th, and expenses would be retroactive back to April 26th of this year. So if you've done a project that's upgraded the efficiency on your farm, you can contact me. You're eligible for up to $10,000 towards the project itself, and then we will pay up to $300 towards a required energy audit. We require that to show the reduction in the energy use, and we prefer and we're actually required that it be from either a certified energy manager or a professional engineer. We do not take cash purchases. We have to have a proof of purchase, so it could be check, card, anything but cash. And this can be combined with the REAP program that Andy just talked about. Some of the things that are required kind of with your application for eligibility, that third-party audit that I was talking about, our guidelines have some people that we use a lot already. They're approved. We have a long working relationship with them. 12 months of energy usage history is also required. That will be used more by the certified energy manager, but it is necessary. And then we'll need tax info from the previous 2 years because you do have to have at least a $25,000 gross farm income or an average of 20% of your income from farming. And then our application deadlines, we have 3 per year. So our last one for 2024 is going to be December 20th, 2024. And then for 25, we have April 25th, August 29th, and then December 19th. And we'll take applications by mail, or if you get in contact with me beforehand, I will say that's what I prefer. I can take a digital copy as well. I like to also kind of look over applications for applicants beforehand because it just helps on the front end. Then some of our popular projects that we've done, this is not a hard list by any means. This is just what we've done a lot of. So solar panels, that's very, very popular. but 50% or more of the usage does have to be for the farm. As far as kind of poultry house upgrades, lights, fans, heaters, grain operations, they'll get dryers, solar panels for them as well. And then dairy farms, they'll get air compressors, fans. And then horticulture, have done some walk-in freezers, coolers, and then like a heating system for your greenhouse. We did a boiler one time. They upgraded from wood. So let's say you apply and you get approved. There's a few things that we require before we will pay you. You'll after you get approved by the board, we'll send you a legal agreement. You'll sign it, send it back, and then our executive director will sign it, and then that's when the clock starts. So from that date, you will have a year to complete your project, and then you'll also have to have a site visit done by myself or one of my coworkers, and then you'll have to submit all the invoices and proof of payments for the project as well as the audit to me. Then here is my personal contact. And then I've got kind of our basic office contact. If you see that website towards the bottom, kyagr.com/ag policy, you can find our guidelines there. And that's not just for the energy program, but for all of our programs. But you can also just get a hold of me and I can either get you in touch with the right person or get you the information you need.
We are West Kentucky Aquaponics, and this is a picture of the outside of our greenhouse. And we're just a small family business. We've got my husband and my dad, and my son is Tyler, and he is our greenhouse operations manager. He has since starting this business, he has had a child, so I have become more of a babysitter than I am at the greenhouse, but I still manage the greenhouse, from home, and can do all the things here. And just a picture of the Nile tilapia that we have in our tanks, and just wanted to kind of give you all an idea. This is the inside of our greenhouse. We have 8,000 square feet where we do raise the tilapia fish, and then their waste is converted naturally into nitrates for the produce to grow. Our main produce is lettuce, and we've been in operation for going on 6 years now. And as you can see, we have lots of grow lights. We have 64 grow lights. These are the halide grow lights. And back when we started, we could have gone with the LED, but they were very expensive. I haven't checked prices lately on those, but we are doing just fine with these. And then they also serve, since they do put off heat, they help to warm our greenhouse in the winter. So that's why we chose to go with this type of setup. But as you know, this requires a lot of electricity. And so I will tell you our story. My background, first of all, is in nursing. So I had no farming experience, and I had definitely have no electrical experience. And so when we first got our greenhouse going, and we had the lights on and everything, it was the winter. We weren't growing in our commercial system yet. We were still developing our nursery system and getting our commercial our nursery system, getting our commercial system ready. But we were all excited about the lights. It was dark early, so we were like, oh, let's turn the lights on. So we turned the lights on, and all at once, and people were driving through trying to see what was happening. We were glowing. People didn't know if aliens had landed, if we were, growing marijuana, or, just what was happening. And so anyway, we didn't need the grow lights at that time, so we shut it off. I started getting our electric bills. And of course, we're running pumps and air and things 24 hours a day. But our electric bill was running about $2,000 a month. And we're like, what in the world is going on? Again, I know nothing really about electricity, but I will say that in the beginning, when we discussed our business before we got it started and everything, we always know that we wanted to try to implement solar. But we had just gotten started and we hadn't had a chance to do that at that time. So then after I've talked with Jackson Purchase Energy multiple times and looked at our bills and everything, I figured out what a demand meter was. And because we turned all of those grow lights on, all 64 at the same time, we hit a certain demand. And even though we never turned them on the rest of that winter, we were paying $500 just for that 1 meter a month, even though we weren't using anything. So I called Jackson Purchase. I said, take that meter out, and we don't need it right now. We're going to apply for grants to, assist with solar energy, and so that's what we did. So we were thankfully awarded the REAP grant, and we also got the KOAP grant. The cost of the solar panels. Now, I told you that we have 3 different meters, and so you have to, oh, whoops, let me back up. Well, here we are glowing at night. Can you still hear me okay? Yeah, so
Yes,
we
I can hear
have 3 different meters, and to divide up the load on the solar panel. So we have a 15 kilowatt solar panel, we have a 30 kilowatt solar panel, and a 25 kilowatt solar panel. And I just happened to get our bill today, and I was entering it into the computer. And then back in the summer, I think it was July, our bill for the month was $165. And then today, since we have started using the lights a little bit more because it's getting dark earlier, and we've had a lot of cloudy days and things, we've had to use them a little bit more. And today our bill was $273. So without the solar panels, we would not be able to be in business. There's no way that a small farm that's selling lettuce could sustain $2,000 a month electric bill. So it runs our entire greenhouse, with just a little bit of the overage in the winter from what we had, we build up through the summer. I know that the grant writers were mentioned. This was very early on. In starting our business, and I have since started kind of writing grants myself. But we did use a grant writer to help with the applications, and we were approved the first time. So I agree with what Andy said. Grant writers, are really important for some of these bigger grant applications. And then also, when we were doing this, we researched everything before we did anything. We had the person that was our representative for our solar company. They came out, and he did all the numbers for us. All I had to do was give him some bills from previous months, and he was able to figure that kilowatt usage and things. So they basically did everything from the grant standpoint. After everything was installed, and we were using things, then we do have the audits. I think it was maybe over a year. It was every few months I had to fill out some information and get some information from our electric bills, but it was very easy to do. It wasn't cumbersome at all. We no longer have to do those. That was just part of the grant being awarded to us. And like I said, it has been so beneficial to us, and I highly recommend
Tammie, you kind of cut out there for a sec. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Oh, I can now. Yes.
Yes, okay.
All right. So did you all get all of that?
Just back up like 15 seconds, probably.
Okay. For I just said that, we highly recommend, the solar and using the REAP grant and the, all the other grants that are available through KOAP. They made it so easy for us. And I just had to, give them the numbers that they asked for, and they did all the work for us. And so we greatly appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tammie. That photo of your glowing greenhouse is insane.
That's what the people were driving through to look at, and that's probably one of the nights that started costing me $500 a month.
Yeah. So we have a few minutes for questions if y'all have time to stay on the call for just a second. But maybe Tammie, you can talk about how you connected, because we talked about hiring grant writers to work on this application process for you. How did you go about doing that? Did they connect you with a grant writer, or did you have to figure out that process on your own?
Well, it just so happened that the person doing our solar, his dad was a grant writer, and they're both here in Marshall County. My son knew them already because of playing soccer. And
Hmm.
so it was really very easy for us.
Okay. Amazing. That's very convenient.
Yes, very.
Then I guess a question for Andy or Chelsea. Does the USDA or KOAP offer technical assistance for growers that are going through the application process, or do you guys have grant writers that you connect people with, or how does that process work?
I'll go. I was waiting on Chelsea.
Go ahead.
We maintain a list of grant writers. And I probably said that really fast, but if you'll send me an email, then I'll send you the list. A large number of these grant writers are in the state of Kentucky, and we're fairly well represented from east to west. So finding one is not an issue.
Hmm.
I'll be glad to email you the list. Anybody that would like it, just send me an email.
Gotcha. Perfect. I don't know if you want to follow up on that, Chelsea.
Well, I unfortunately I don't really know. I think the Mountain Association, I think they do some grant writing as well as the audit information, but I think they're more of a Eastern region or based company. But unfortunately, I'm not sure. I guess either in the time that I've done it, applicants have either done it themselves or they've already found somebody without needing me.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And Chelsea, I had a question for you in my chat. It asks, are the applications accepted at any time, and about how long does it take to hear back?
Yes, they are accepted at any time, but I will say so we won't meet until the following month. Well, I guess it's 2 months. So if you turn it in anytime between now and December 20th, we will meet as a committee in February, and then they will make a recommendation, and then our full board will vote on it in March. So you'll get a final answer in, I guess, within 2 to 3 months. But you're welcome to work on the project. And I mean, we've even completed site visits before full approval. It doesn't guarantee approval, but we've done them.
Gotcha. And Cindy just posted program guidelines and applications in the chat box. If anybody wants to check that out, I'll include that in my follow-up email. Question for Tammie, and maybe we missed it, but are you selling power back to the utility to offset costs? Utility company?
Our uh, electric co-op does not buy the power back, but they give us credits. So those credits kind of help us make it through the winter when we're not having as much sunlight and those cloudy days. So actually, I would rather have it that way than them buy me, because credits do not sell for very much at all in Kentucky. Unfortunately, Kentucky is not the most solar friendly state. We are part of what's called EC trade, and all I do is read our meters from the solar panels once a month, enter those numbers in, and then we can sell those credits to someone else, say the Tennessee Valley Authority. If they needed to state that they participated with green energy, they could buy credits from us. Now, they're not buying the energy from us, but they're just buying the credits so they can say that they participate with green energy. And those credits, I mean, like up in New York, they may be $100 or $200 a credit. Around here, they're 20 or less.
Gotcha. I might have missed this question for Andy and Chelsea. Can applicants apply for the same grant multiple times for different projects? And can applicants reapply for the same project if they're not accepted the first time?
For us, it's yes on all of them, but only once a year.
Once a year.
So in 2024, you can do it once. 2025, you can do it once.
Understood.
For the REAP, if you applied and you were not funded for some reason, if your score maybe wasn't high enough and we were in the same fiscal year, then that application would automatically roll to the next quarter. So one application at the beginning of the year, if it wasn't funded, would roll until the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
End of the year, if it wasn't funded, you would have to withdraw the application, but then you could immediately reapply for the next year. That will probably be more of a concern this year, because the funding will be a little less, but the applications are a lot more. So we've had two things happen.
Yeah. Gotcha. This is a pretty quick question, and I might have missed it, Andy, at the beginning of your talk, but how is a rural area defined? What is the designation there?
The quick answer, most of Kentucky.
Okay.
The cities that we generally don't have, and we have a map, and I'll share that if someone were talking to somebody. But you think of Louisville, you think of Lexington, you think of Bowling Green City. Those are the areas that the larger metropolitan areas are the ones that won't qualify for the rural business. The vast majority of Kentucky is not in that. So, but we looked that up. You would give me an address where the project was going to go. Takes me a few seconds, and I'll look that up and to determine eligibility.
Gotcha. Okay, we're almost out of time. I have one other question for Chelsea. I know you have to get a third-party energy audit required for the application. How much do those generally cost, and are they part of the reimbursement?
Yes. So the cost varies. It can be anywhere from $100 to I think honestly some of them can be some thousands of dollars. But we will cover up to $300. The
Gotcha.
people that are listed on our guidelines, they will not be above $300. And so we'll cover 100% of that.